It's been 8 months since the wedding, and I can still see those two empty chairs in the front row. They weren't just unoccupied seats, they were gaping holes, adorned with the thickest white satin ribbon and the most expensive white garden roses my fiancé's mother could procure, standing as silent, damning witnesses to a lifetime of second place. I remember standing there in my bespoke ivory gown, the one I'd saved 3 years for, my fingers gripping the painted white trim of the garden door at the Atherton estate where Adam's parents were hosting the ceremony. My heart was doing a frantic, ugly tattoo against my ribs as I peered through the crack at the 50-odd guests seated on the manicured lawn. The string quartet had paused, that expectant, pregnant silence hanging in the crisp Bay Area air. And there they were. Two empty chairs where Arthur and Eleanor Sawyer, my parents, the pillars of Atherton society, should have been. Where are her parents? The whisper started low, spreading through the guests like a chemical spill. I heard they were just running late. No, someone said there was a last-minute conflict. I closed my eyes, a single hot tear escaping my careful makeup barrier. I had spent nearly an hour perfecting my smoky eye, telling myself, not now, Bryn, not today. But that familiar, crushing disappointment was already settling in, heavy and irreversible. Adam's voice, steady and warm, pulled me back. Bryn, you look incredible. I turned to see him, handsome in his classic charcoal suit, his normally calm face etched with a fierce concern and barely controlled anger. He took my trembling hand, his thumb stroking the fragile skin over my wrist. They're not coming, are they? I managed a brittle smile, feeling it shatter around the edges. Let's not keep everyone waiting. The lack of surprise was the worst part. Why would I be surprised? Hadn't this been the pattern since childhood? A desperate, never-ending quest for a crumb of their validation? Always, always shadowed by my sister, Tiffany. I was the serious one, the architectural designer. She was the beautiful one, the high-end lifestyle influencer whose face sold artisanal coffee machines and luxury yoga retreats. I remember being 19, bringing home the results of the prestigious Berkeley design competition I had won. My father, Arthur, the CEO of Vance Wealth Management, had looked up from his iPad for a split second, nodded distractedly, and muttered, "That's nice, Bryn. Good for your portfolio." Then, without missing a beat, he'd called out, "Eleanor, did you see Tiffany's latest Instagram reel? 40,000 likes in an hour. We need to frame that." My competition certificate ended up on the bottom of a pile of magazines, while Tiffany's latest sponsored post became a trophy on the mantelpiece. Maybe if I'm perfect enough today, in this perfect dress, marrying this perfect man, they'll finally see me. The thought was a raw, childish plea. Even now, on my wedding day, a delusional part of me expected them to burst in with some ridiculous, yet socially acceptable excuse. But they wouldn't, and I knew it, deep down in the marrow of my bones. Adam's father, Dr. Julian Sterling, a distinguished history professor, appeared beside us, his suit impeccable, his eyes kind. They flicked to the empty chairs, then back to me, offering quiet support, not pity. "Everything's ready when you are, Bryn," he said, his voice a low rumble. I nodded, drawing a breath, and Adam squeezed my hand one last time before heading down the aisle to his place at the altar. Martha Sterling, Adam's mother, and a retired pediatrician, glided over, adjusting the small vintage lace on my veil with practiced, gentle movements. This woman, who had spent the last week ensuring the catering included my specific, obscure allergy requests, and who had looked at me since the day we met as if I were a treasure worthy of her son's devotion. "You look radiant, darling. Truly, truly radiant." The quartet launched into the wedding march, and the doors swung open. All the guests rose. I began my walk down the aisle alone. No Arthur to give me away, no Eleanor dabbing her eyes. But there was Adam, waiting with the smile that had always, fundamentally, made me feel safe. The ceremony was a beautiful, tear-filled blur, culminating in the words, "husband and wife." As the applause erupted, we turned to face our guests, hand in hand, and for a blessed moment, the empty chairs vanished from my mind, until the reception began. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ's voice boomed through the Atherton ballroom, "it is time for the traditional father-daughter dance. The words were a physical punch to the gut. I froze, the champagne flute halfway to my mouth, as the spotlight swept the room, seeking a dance that couldn't happen. The joyful noise of the reception dissolved into a suffocating silence. 100 eyes fixed on me, a mixture of sympathy and awkwardness. Then Dr. Sterling, Julian, stepped forward. He extended his hand, his expression serious. "May I have this honor, Bryn?" The pure, unadulterated kindness in his eyes threatened to break the composure I'd held all day. I placed my hand in his, and he led me onto the dance floor. As we swayed to the music, I saw guests watching, some with tears, others with warm, approving smiles. "Thank you," I managed to whisper, blinking hard. "Family isn't always blood, sweetheart," he said simply, guiding me through a gentle, practiced turn. The evening continued. The cake was cut, heartfelt toasts were made by Adam's friends and colleagues. I was almost successfully lost in the celebration when the vibration of my phone in the hidden pocket of my dress interrupted the peace. I slipped away to a quiet corner and checked it. 3 texts from Tiffany. The most recent one, sent during the toast, read, "Mom and Dad are devastated you forgot to make sure they got invitations. How could you forget your own parents?" A cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. They're lying. I sent both physical and digital invitations. I checked the tracking. They confirmed receipt. This isn't about me, it's about their image. The realization washed over me with stinging clarity. I silenced the phone, slipping it back into my pocket. Returning to the ballroom, I overheard fragments of conversations as I passed groups of guests. Always about Tiffany. Remember Bryn's graduation? They left early because Tiffany had a photo shoot. Arthur and Eleanor care more about appearances than actual relationships. Poor girl. Imagine not showing up to your daughter's wedding. Adam found me instantly, his hand closing around mine, a silent, powerful anchor. He didn't ask what was wrong, he simply absorbed my distress. "Ready to get out of here?" he asked, nodding toward the exit where our getaway vintage car waited. I looked around the room, at Adam's family, who had welcomed me as one of their own, at the friends who had traveled to witness our commitment, at the beautiful garden where I became Mrs. Sterling despite the 2 empty seats. "Ready," I said, feeling a new, steel-like resolve bloom inside me. As we ran through a shower of rose petals, I made a silent vow. This is the last time I will ever wait for people who never plan to show up. The honeymoon glow from our 2 weeks in Bora Bora faded faster than my tan. I was back in our Oakland apartment kitchen, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixing with the metallic taste of anxiety in my mouth. 3 weeks of total silence from Arthur and Eleanor after the wedding, and I finally worked up the courage to call them. "You forgot to invite us, Bryn." My mother, Eleanor's, voice was cold, razor-sharp with accusation. "We never received the invitation." My hand shook as I opened my work laptop, pulling up the digital trail I'd meticulously maintained. "That's not true, Mom. I sent both physical and email invitations. I have the receipts." The familiar, practiced dismissal cut deep even after 30 years of experience. "Don't be so dramatic, dear. Sometimes these systems make mistakes." I pulled up the email confirmation. "I'm looking at the receipt right now. The email was delivered and opened by your address, eleanor.sawyer@athertonsocial.com, on March 12th at 9:47 a.m. Dad even replied from his official account saying, "Thanks for the heads up." A beat of silence, thin and telling. Well, perhaps the digital one was accidentally overlooked. In the tracking information for the physical invitation shows it was delivered to your mailbox on March 10th. I have the confirmation number, Mom. The evasion shifted gear, moving from denial to wounded innocence with dizzying speed. "Maybe we didn't feel welcome, Bryn. You know how busy we are with Tiffany's new lifestyle brand launching. Perhaps you didn't make it clear how important it was for us to be there." The truth, hit me with the force of a thunderclap. This wasn't about invitations or feelings, it was about their image. They had chosen to skip their eldest daughter's wedding and were now systematically rewriting history to cast me as the negligent, forgetful daughter, thereby protecting their standing in the Atherton social circuit. "You're always so dramatic about everything, Bryn. Your temper is the issue." Her voice was gaining volume, sliding effortlessly into the role of the long-suffering matriarch. "I have to go," I said quietly, ending the call before the guilt could fully take root. I sat at the kitchen island scrolling through months of text messages. The pattern, now that I was looking for it, was glaringly obvious. Eleanor's sudden preoccupation whenever the wedding was mentioned, Arthur's vague, non-committal emails about checking the social calendar, the convenient radio silence in the weeks leading up to the ceremony. I reread the text Tiffany sent the night before the wedding. "Make sure you take photos with Dad's major clients. They're important connections for when I launch the Sawyer Wellness line next year." Not a single wish for my happiness. My phone buzzed now with a new text from Tiffany. "Mom is crying because of your horrible phone call. Why do you always have to upset everyone?" This was followed by another message. "Some relatives are asking questions about the wedding. You need to tell them you forgot to send invitations to Mom and Dad. This family drama is the last thing I need with my own wedding coming up." Tiffany's engagement announcement, conveniently timed for after my honeymoon, had been splashed across the Atherton Gazette just last month. Arthur's email arrived next, echoing his youngest daughter's script. "Your mother is very hurt by your accusations. Family loyalty means supporting each other, not creating conflict. Think about how this affects Tiffany's upcoming wedding plans." 3 antagonists, perfectly aligned. Eleanor wielding guilt, Tiffany enforcing the required public narrative, and Arthur providing the moralizing framework to back them both. I looked around our small but bright apartment. The wedding photos we'd just hung radiated genuine warmth. Adam and I laughing with his parents, dancing with Dr. Sterling, surrounded by friends who truly cared. Joy in every frame, yet the absence of the Sawyers was a loud, glaring omission. I'd spent 29 years chasing approval that was never meant for me. Tears started to fall as I focused on one photo. Me looking over my shoulder in my gown, trying desperately to smile through the heartbreak. I didn't hear Adam come home until he knelt beside me, his hand warm and grounding on my knee. "What do you need?" he asked, his blue eyes filled with understanding. Not, "What's wrong?" Not, "Why are you crying?" But, "What do you need?" A question that centered my agency and my feelings. It broke something open inside me. "I need to stop pretending they care about my happiness," I whispered, my voice thick. He simply nodded. No easy fixes, no dismissal, just presence. I wiped my eyes and opened a new document. "I'm making a record of everything," I told him. The invitation receipts, the tracking numbers, the texts, the emails, a chronological timeline of communication attempts before the wedding, each entry logging their deliberate avoidance followed by the subsequent gaslighting. "What will you do with it?" Adam asked, handing me a mug of calming chamomile tea. "I'm going to tell the truth," I said, taking a steadying breath. I composed the email meticulously, attaching all the relevant documents without emotional commentary. The message was concise. "Eleanor and Arthur, I have attached undeniable documentation showing that you received both electronic and physical invitations to our wedding. You chose not to come. I will not participate in the charade of pretending otherwise. This is not about blame. It is about acknowledging reality so we can move forward honestly, if that is what you truly desire. Bryn." I hit send before my ingrained self-doubt could paralyze me. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Not my parents, but Martha Sterling, Adam's mother. "Bryn, honey, I saw what you wrote to them," she said without preamble. "Tiffany copied me, probably hoping I'd be horrified by your attack on family values." My stomach dropped. "Martha, I'm proud of you, Bryn," she interrupted gently. "Standing up for yourself isn't an attack. It's about time someone in that family valued truth over appearances." A wave of warmth washed over me. Adam sat down next to me on the couch, his shoulder pressed against mine. "Your truth matters more than their comfort," he said quietly. I leaned into him, feeling decades of internalized guilt begin to lift. The next day, at my architectural firm, my supervisor commented that I seemed different, more focused, more present. I realized I hadn't checked my phone all morning for messages from the Sawyers. It was a small victory, this fragile freedom from constantly seeking their approval. But as I walked back to my desk, it felt monumental. I was finally building my own life, not waiting on the periphery of theirs. 3 days later, my phone buzzed repeatedly. "Tiffany, you can't ruin my wedding just because you're insecure. Mom and Dad are heartbroken. Fix this." I set the phone face down, taking deep, centering breaths. "Family stuff," I told my concerned coworker. Later that day, the calls intensified. Not just Tiffany, but my Aunt Marie. "Bryn, honey, my mother called me in tears. She says you're refusing to admit you forgot their invitation. Can't you just apologize for the mix-up?" I could picture Eleanor on the phone, voice quavering, spinning her narrative across the entire social web. When I got home, Adam's face was dark. "Arthur sent me an email," he said, showing me his laptop. It was a pompous lecture about the importance of family loyalty and how Adam, as my husband, should help Bryn see reason. He closed the laptop. "They're escalating because you're no longer playing the role they wrote for you." My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Bryn, it's Tiffany. Since you blocked me on my personal line, I had to use Chet's phone." I hung up instantly, a surge of adrenaline mixing with grim satisfaction. But the calls kept coming, different numbers, always Tiffany's furious, self-pitying voice when I reluctantly answered. I finally powered my phone off entirely, the silence a profound, immediate relief. "You know what's strange?" I asked Adam later that night as we ate Thai takeout. "I keep bracing myself for the guilt, but instead I just feel calm, like I finally see them clearly." Adam considered this, pausing with his chopsticks. "What do you think changed?" The question made me stop chewing. "I think it's the knowledge that I have options and assets they can't touch. My job pays well. I have irrefutable proof they're lying. I have you. For the first time, I don't need their approval to survive." When I turned my phone back on the next morning, there were 19 new messages. One from Adam immediately caught my attention. "Check your email. Tiffany texted me." The message she sent him made my blood run cold. "You should help Bryn behave better. Networking with Arthur's successful clients could significantly benefit your career. Don't ruin your future for her tantrums." Adam's devastatingly simple reply appeared below it. "I only care about Bryn's happiness and integrity, not her perceived networking value." Pride swelled in my chest, momentarily eclipsing the anger. This man saw me as a person of substance, not a pawn in a social game. "I blocked her," Adam said, coming over to kiss the top of my head. "I hope that's okay." "More than okay," I said, feeling another layer of the old weight lift. That evening, Martha Sterling called. My stomach instinctively tightened, anticipating more pressure, even from her. "Bryn, darling, I got the strangest text from your sister. Something about your psychological instability and toxic jealousy." "I'm forwarding it to you now, but I wanted you to hear it from me first." The accompanying screenshot arrived with Martha's decisive caption, "Nonsense. You and Adam come over for my famous pot roast tonight. You need real family." Dinner at the Sterlings felt like stepping onto a different planet. There was no walking on eggshells, no veiled criticism, no competition. Just easy conversation, genuine interest in my architectural projects, and enough comfort food to settle the soul. "More potatoes, Bryn?" Julian passed the bowl before I even needed to ask. "I saw that article in the SF Chronicle about your firm winning the historic preservation bid. Excellent work on the seismic retrofitting solution." The simple acknowledgement of my career, something my own parents never managed, brought a surprising lump to my throat. "Tell us more about it," Martha encouraged. Adam says you're already sketching ideas for the next phase. As I spoke, they listened attentively, asking intelligent, thoughtful questions. No one checked their watch. No one pivoted the conversation to someone more important. They treated me like I mattered. Is this what family is supposed to feel like? 2 days later, my phone rang with Aunt Marie's number. Bryn, I wanted to talk to you about Tiffany's wedding. Your mother says you deliberately excluded them from yours, and now you're refusing to attend Tiffany's out of spite. I took a deep, centering breath. Aunt Marie, I have the invitation receipts. Would you like to see them? Silence stretched. What receipts, honey? Email confirmation, and they opened the digital invitation, postal tracking showing certified delivery of the paper invitation, text messages where I confirmed they received it. My voice was steady as I attached the evidence to an email. I'm sending them now. The sharp intake of breath told me she was looking at the attachments. Oh, Bryn. Arthur and Eleanor swore to me you forgot. They told everyone you were disorganized. They chose not to come, Aunt Marie. Just like they've been choosing Tiffany's public image over my private life for decades. More silence, then a heavy sigh. I'll be damned. Eleanor swore on everything holy. I believe you, Bryn. I'm so deeply sorry. That night, I created a single, massive group message including every family member who had contacted me about the situation. I attached all the evidence, delivery confirmations, open receipts, text exchanges, without a single explanatory word. Within hours, my phone exploded. I had no idea, Bryn. Your mother told us a completely different story. We won't be attending Tiffany's wedding after all. Arthur and Eleanor owe you a massive apology. I sat on our small balcony watching the lights of the Bay Bridge shimmer as the messages flooded in. Adam joined me, placing a warm mug of herbal tea in my hands. You okay? I looked at my phone as another notification arrived. It was Tiffany, using yet another number. What have you done? 3 aunts and Uncle Charles just canceled. Mom is hysterical. For the first time since my own wedding, a genuine smile spread across my face. It wasn't triumph. It was liberation. I didn't do anything, I told Adam, leaning against his shoulder, except stop hiding the truth. A final notification appeared on the screen. Tiffany's wedding has been postponed due to unforeseen venue issues. I didn't need to be a corporate CEO to decode that error message. I watched Arthur and Eleanor's carefully constructed social facade collapse like a badly designed house of cards, all without me lifting a single furious finger. The rain tapped gently against my office window, a quiet percussion drowning out the hum of the servers. 3 months had passed since the truth bomb was dropped on the family group chat. 3 months of carefully chosen silence from me. Bryn? My supervisor appeared at my cubicle, holding a thick manila folder. The Mission Bay renovation proposal is excellent. The partners were particularly impressed with your sustainability solutions. I smiled, a quiet, deep satisfaction spreading through me. Thanks, Maria. I wanted to make sure we addressed all the long-term energy weak points. It paid off, she said, placing the folder on my desk. They're naming you lead designer on the next phase, plus a 15% bump in compensation. Congratulations. My fingers traced the new salary figure, $138,000. More than the validation, I appreciated the timing, proof that stepping away from the family drama had allowed me to focus on building my actual life, not defending it. I silenced Tiffany's next incoming call without a second thought. That evening, as Adam and I shared a celebratory bottle of wine with friends, I realized the constant ache of parental disappointment had finally dulled to background noise. In its place, design challenges, shared laughter, Adam's steady presence. Peace built not on reconciliation, but on choosing where my energy belonged. The next morning brought an unwelcome return to the old noise. My office phone, an extension I rarely used, rang. Architectural design, this is Bryn Sterling. Bryn, thank God I finally reached you. Why haven't you been answering our calls? Your father and I have been worried sick. Eleanor's voice sounded hollow, strained. "I'm at work, Mom. I can't talk right now." "Well, when can you talk? This has gone on long enough. Tiffany's rescheduled wedding is in 3 weeks, and there are serious problems with the guest list. Relatives are still declining because of this situation you've created." The familiar weight of guilt attempted to settle on my shoulders. I shrugged it off. "That's not my responsibility." "Of course it is. You're tearing this family apart. Your father is absolutely devastated." Her voice cracked with practiced theatrical emotion. "He sent you an email yesterday. Did you even read it?" I had not. The subject line, family obligations and professional responsibilities, had been enough to send it straight to the archives. "I'll read it later," I said, my voice steady. "I need to get back to work now." "You can't just— Goodbye, Mom." I hung up, mildly surprised by how little power her desperation held over me now. I checked my personal email instead, finding a message from Aunt Marie that made me pause. "Bryn, I wanted to let you know Tiffany's wedding has been postponed again. The real reason? Half the guest list declined after learning what happened with your wedding. I'm one of them. I should have stood up for you years ago. I'm sorry it took me this long to see what was happening. If you're ever ready to talk, I'm here. Love, Aunt Marie." The piece lasted exactly 16 days before Eleanor's tearful, frantic voicemail broke the silence. "Bryn, please, you're breaking your father's heart with this behavior. Tiffany had to postpone her wedding again. People are asking questions we can't answer. Call us back, sweetheart. We can work this out as a family." I deleted the message without listening past the first sentence and opened my laptop. I found an email from Tiffany. The subject line read, "Wedding announcement photos," with several image attachments. Curiosity got the better of me. The photos showed Tiffany and her fiancé, Chet, in a garden setting strikingly similar to the one at the Sterling Estate where I got married. Stone paths, climbing roses, trellises softly blurred in the background. The composition, the lighting, the color palette, all of it was a painfully familiar recreation of my wedding aesthetic, down to the smallest detail. Below the images, Tiffany's message was brief, smug, and infuriating. "What do you think? Mom says these came out better than yours." I closed the laptop without responding. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived from Arthur's law firm. The formal, precise handwriting on the envelope spoke volumes before I even opened it. "Bryn, your continued silence is unacceptable. As your father, I demand an explanation in person. Whatever imagined slight you believe we've committed does not justify tearing this family apart during what should be a joyful time for your sister. Your behavior has affected Tiffany's special day significantly. The least you can do is meet with us to discuss your return to the family before more damage is done. Your mother and I expect to hear from you within the week. Arthur." I folded the letter, placing it carefully with the stack of family communications I'd been documenting. A paper trail of a lifetime pattern finally visible. The last, pathetic attempt came a week before Tiffany's newly rescheduled wedding date. A cream-colored envelope arrived containing a cashier's check for $2,000 and a brief note in Tiffany's signature looping script. "For your dress and travel expenses, Mom and Dad will tell everyone you had scheduling conflicts before. Please just show up and smile for the pictures, for the family image. T." I stared at the check, feeling a strange, absolute calm settle over me. They had finally shown their hand completely. My presence wasn't valued. Only the appearance of family unity that they could display to their social peers was worth buying. That evening, I wrote a short, polite note on my personal stationery and placed it in the envelope with Tiffany's uncashed check. "My presence isn't for sale. Bryn Sterling." As Adam dropped the envelope into the mailbox, he squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I told him. And for the first time, I truly meant it. The news spread quickly through the established family grapevine. Aunt Marie called to tell me that Eleanor's own sister had finally confronted her about their treatment of me after years of silently enabling. Tiffany's fiancé's family, who had witnessed Tiffany's public meltdown over my note, were asking increasingly uncomfortable questions about the Sawyer family dynamics. "They're fighting among themselves now," Aunt Marie said, her voice low. "Eleanor is blaming Arthur for letting it get this far. Tiffany is furious with both of them for the continuous postponements. It's like watching a house of cards finally collapse." "Are you still going to the wedding?" I asked. "No, honey. Some things are more important than keeping up appearances. I should have learned that a long time ago." As I hung up the phone, I felt no triumph in their struggle, only a quiet, resolute certainty that I was exactly where I needed to be, building a life where my worth wasn't determined by how well I fit into someone else's false narrative. Tiffany's gold-embossed wedding invitation still sat on my kitchen counter, catching the morning light. 3 days until the new big day, and the pressure had reached a peak pitch. My phone buzzed with Eleanor's fourth message today. "Bryn, please just show up. We'll forget everything that happened. Tiffany deserves her sister there." I placed the phone face down, my jaw tight. This followed a call from another cousin who began our conversation innocently before inevitably steering toward, "Your mother asked me to talk to you." Even Arthur had left a voicemail offering to walk both my daughters down the aisle, as if that single gesture erased their conspicuous absence from my own ceremony. Tiffany's text last week was the cherry on top. "Your absence would be cruel to everyone who loves us both. Don't punish the whole family." Cruel, as if I were the villain. The doorbell rang. It was a courier delivering an envelope from Arthur's law firm. Inside was a formal, chilling letter. "Consider how family connections benefit your career. The architectural world values networking. Tiffany's fiancé's family has connections that could help you advance. Burning bridges now could have long-term consequences." The veiled professional threat wasn't subtle. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in the recycling bin. My laptop pinged with an email notification from Tiffany. The subject line read, "My side of the story." The preview showed the first line. "I've drafted a post explaining why my sister abandoned our family. Before I share it publicly," I slammed the laptop shut, my heart hammering. How desperate had they become? An hour later, Eleanor called. I answered, against my better judgment. "Bryn," her voice was tight, brittle with forced calm, "this has gone on long enough. Come to the wedding or you are not part of this family anymore." The irony almost made me laugh out loud. When have I ever been treated like I was part of this family? She hung up before I could respond. Later that evening, I found myself looking through old family photo albums. There was a photo from Tiffany's 16th birthday. She was blowing out candles while I stood half-cropped out at the edge of the frame. Another from my college graduation. They had left early because Tiffany had a modeling callback. The pattern was documented across 2 decades. "You okay?" Adam asked, finding me surrounded by memories. "Am I being too harsh?" I asked, my voice small. He sat beside me and gently took a photo from my hands, the one showing the 2 empty chairs at our wedding. "They skipped our wedding, Bryn. Actions have consequences." "I know. It's just, I've spent my whole life putting their feelings first. At the cost of your dignity," he finished softly. The truth of his words resonated through me. Every family holiday rearranged for Tiffany's schedule, every achievement of mine minimized, every criticism I swallowed. My comfort always came at the expense of my dignity. I closed the albums and reached for my laptop. For hours, I compiled everything into one final, undeniable document. By midnight, I had a complete, factual, and unemotional timeline of events. I drafted a final email to the entire extended family. No accusations, no anger, just documented truth. "To my extended family, there seems to be confusion about my absence from Tiffany's wedding. I have attached documentation of what transpired regarding my own wedding. Attached, you will find..." I listed the postal tracking, the email receipt, and the screenshots of my contact attempts. "I will not be attending Tiffany's wedding. This isn't about punishment or cruelty. It's about consequences for choices made. My absence is the consequence of choices made 8 months ago. Sincerely, Bryn Sterling." I pressed send. "What do you want to do on Tiffany's wedding day?" I smiled for the first time in days. "Let's hike Olympic National Park. Hurricane Ridge." On Tiffany's wedding day, Adam and I stood atop Hurricane Ridge. The vast, snow-capped mountains of the Olympic Range sprawled before us. My new phone, the number known only to the Sterlings and a few trusted friends, pinged. It was a message from Eleanor's sister, with a photo attachment. Tiffany's wedding reception, half empty. Family tables conspicuously bare. Your mother is furious. Half the family didn't show up. They're saying they never got invitations. Sound familiar? I should have felt vindication, but all I felt was profound relief. The truth was finally undeniably visible to everyone. More messages trickled in over the next few days, relatives apologizing, my cousin sending screenshots of heated group chat arguments about Arthur and Eleanor's behavior. The family narrative was permanently altered. I was no longer carrying the burden of their false image alone. A week after her honeymoon, Tiffany called from an unknown number. "How could you?" she demanded when I answered. "You've turned everyone against us." "I didn't turn anyone against you," I replied calmly. "I simply showed them the truth. You can't ruin my wedding and expect me at yours." The irony of her words hung between us. "That's exactly what you and our parents did to me, Tiffany." "It's different," she shouted, her voice cracking. "They always loved me more. Why is everyone taking your side now?" Her words confirmed what I had always known, but never heard spoken aloud. "This isn't about sides," I said softly. "It's about truth. I'm free of needing their approval. Are you?" The line went silent for a long moment before she hung up. I looked out my apartment window at the Bay Area skyline, feeling a weight lift that I had carried for 29 years. The truth had finally set me free. Almost 2 years after the wedding, I cradled my 6-month-old son, Julian Arthur Sterling, named for the man who danced with me, against my chest, his warm weight more comforting than any therapy session. His steady breathing had become my favorite sound. The late afternoon sun filtered through the windows of our home, casting golden light across the living room where Adam sat, sorting photos for the baby album. "Look at this one." He held up a picture of Martha, the only grandmother my son will ever know, cradling him the day we brought him home. Her eyes shone with unconditional love. I ran my finger over my son's downy hair. "She's coming over tomorrow? Right?" "Wouldn't miss it for anything," Adam replied. "Said she's bringing that apple pie you've been craving." Our walls held no portraits of Eleanor or Arthur, no evidence of Tiffany's perfect smile. Instead, they showcased the family we had chosen, the Sterlings, friends, colleagues, people who showed up when it mattered. My phone buzzed against the side table. I shifted the baby and reached for it, expecting a work update. Instead, an unknown number flashed on the screen with a text that made my stomach clench for just a moment before the feeling dissolved instantly. "Bryn, I know you had a son. You cannot be this cruel. You cannot keep a grandchild from his grandmother. This is wrong. Call me. Eleanor." 2 years ago, these words would have been devastating. Now I felt nothing but calm certainty. "Your mother?" Adam asked, recognizing the name. Using my cousin's phone, I confirmed, showing him the screen. Same tactics, same manipulative language. "You cannot, you should not, you must." The words, once so powerful, now read as hollow as a bad script. My therapist called it emotional neglect, and Adam called it exactly what it was. I realized I'd found meaning in helping others navigate what I survived, passing on the support that had carried me through. I looked down at my son and saw what unconditional love truly looked like. My thumb hovered over the block button for a second before pressing it decisively. No hesitation, no guilt, no need to justify my boundaries. I set the phone down and pressed my lips to my son's forehead. Adam smiled, a peaceful, certain expression. Our son nestled between us, protected from the old patterns. This is what family means now, defined by love, by choice, not by obligation or blood.